Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassett, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We got one of the big guys in the community in the house today, Fire Chief John Tull from the Salisbury Fire Department. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here today.
Now, I tell people all the time that I've been lucky, had a great career, great family, but the last time I remember really being really happy was in June of 1967, and I got to ride on top of a fire truck in the Ocean City Fire Parade. And that was the highlight of my life, and you get to do that kind of thing all the time.
Every day. Every day we get to go out on calls and ride on fire trucks. I mean, that's why we do this job, because of the love of just being on fire trucks and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. You've been at the fire chief since 2018, and you came up through the system. You started at the very beginning, and now you are in charge.
Yes, sir. I started as a volunteer at one of our local fire stations, Station Number 2, in 1992. Spent a couple years there as a volunteer and just had the love for the job. As a small kid living in Salisbury, I lived near Station 2, and the fire whistles, when they would blow, you would jump on your bike and you'd ride to see if you can see where the fire engine was going to go, and just always had a love for this job. And I tested and got hired in '94, and just have had a great career and just love this job, this place.
Salisbury's got such a great firefighting tradition, probably the best on the whole Delmarva Peninsula. One of the first to have the paid fire department, which was always controversial. The volunteer fire departments were always jealous that Salisbury had paid guys and stuff like that. But Salisbury burned down twice, and people don't realize that there's something in our history where our city literally burned to the ground twice.
It sure did, and we had early paid firefighter back when the city burned the second time, because they hired someone to take care of the steamer. So there was a paid employee. So over the years, I mean, it just could not have the resources readily available to respond. The city got bigger and bigger after those fires, and the call volume continued to increase. And who would think that as of today, we're running 14,000 calls, just us in the city of Salisbury. So we're a very busy department. Our staffing, we're a combination fire department still today,
right,
where we have career and volunteer members. The unique thing about us is there are times where we'll pull up and you don't know if someone's a career firefighter or a volunteer firefighter, because we all do the same job. We wear the same uniforms when we're on the equipment. So it's a good blend of resources.
Yeah, I'm not at the scene as much, but I listen on the scanner because I'm a scanner hound. I always have been. And you cannot tell who's paid and who's volunteer. The level of training is consistent across, and the dedication and the professionalism, just how the two teams talk to each other. They're one team. They're not even two teams.
Yeah, I mean, we would certainly like to say that we are one team. And our training, we train together. We have a lot of our volunteers, they do hours programs now, where they can sign up when they're going to ride. And they'll ride on a fire engine with other career employees. So they train together. They eat meals together. They go to calls together. Years ago, we developed some performance requirements, and our job descriptions are all one and the same now. You don't see a job description that's for a volunteer and a job description for a career member. They're all one job description. And then as our people train and get more training with promotional opportunities, again, we'll have a promotional process where there are career members and volunteer members all sitting for the same promotional process to become a lieutenant or sergeant or captain or whatever the rank is.
Got some great infrastructure. You've got 3 top-notch fire stations right now.
We do. We've been very fortunate over the years. We've been able to really look at our infrastructure and our facilities. In 2008, we built our fire headquarters and our fire station 16 over on Cypress Street. And then in 2016, we were able to build a new fire station for Station 2 over on Brown and Naylor. And then we did a lot of remodeling to Station 1. So we have really good facilities that should last us for a good many years. We continue to look to the north because of one, call volume. We have a lot of calls that exist on the north end.
You need some up by the mall, I think. But
yeah, so we continue to look at where a good place would be. We do a lot of research and study and looking at our travel times and our response times to that area to see where ideally would be the best spot for it. But it's hard to find property on the north end, one that the city can afford because of the prices of commercial property on the north end. But we continue to look for the possibility of expansion expanding our fire stations.
And your response time goal is, what is it, 8 minutes?
It's really, our travel time is 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
And then if it's a actual fire, getting our resources on the scene within 9 minutes. And that's multiple units on the scene with the adequate manpower or staffing to be able to do the multiple tasks that we have to do at some type of fire. So,
now, when I was a kid, the ambulances were also with the fire department. But the method there then, when I was young, was you put the injured person in the ambulance and you drove as fast as you could to Salisbury. That was the whole mode. And then the TV series Emergency came
Absolutely.
out, and we all learned that there was another way to do EMT service. And now that's such a vital component to what you do. These are like mobile hospitals almost, and your people are trained to be doctors almost.
You would think so, yes. Our clinicians, whether they're an EMT or they're a paramedic, I mean, the level of training they have today is so advanced, and that our ALS providers, they can do a lot of things in the back of an ambulance. We have direct communications with doctors at the hospitals. The drugs that we can give, we follow Maryland protocols that is set by MIMS. So there is a lot that we do now in the back of ambulances. People have no idea what we're capable of doing.
Right.
From IVs to put them on a heart monitor, 12 lead EKGs, to shocking the heart, to airway problems, fixing airway problems. It's amazing what our providers and our clinicians do every day.
And now so much of it, you have to deal with the heroin opioid overdose. That must be a drag to have to deal with all the time.
It is, and it is certainly a problem that everyone is seeing. I mean, we're no different than other areas. We have a large amount of heroin overdoses that we deal with every day. But the message has gotten out there so much, and there's been so much done to try to help and curb some of the heroin overdoses, that there are a lot of times that we'll get on the scene, and from bystanders to police officers to family members, the use of Narcan, they've already administered it. So we get there and the patient's coming back out of the overdose. So it helps us quite a bit, but we see a lot of it.
You guys do such a great job with prevention and making sure that buildings are equipped to deal with fire. Your training is so good, your response time is so good. As a newspaper reporter, I really miss the big fires that we used to write big stories about. Like I was there for the Civic Center fire, which was certainly a transformative moment in my life to see that happen and see how the fire department reacted. But we don't have the big fires anymore.
We don't, and that is a good thing.
I guess it's a good thing, yeah.
Jokingly, we would go, we'd like to see a fire too, but
yeah,
fire prevention, the code changes that have happened over the years have really made the buildings a lot safer for citizens to be inside. Things that we do, we go from our companies that are out there doing pre-plans on buildings all the time. We're measuring distance from fire hydrants. We're walking through the building, letting occupants know where they should store stuff, where they shouldn't store stuff. We check smoke alarms in the buildings and all that. And then now with the creation of our own fire marshal, our fire marshal and our fire inspector, they're just doing a phenomenal job out there, managing one new construction, doing inspections on buildings now. So we are trying to absolutely curb any type of fire that exists. The use of sprinkler systems. Now, I mean, even if you get a fire in there, in a building, the sprinkler system is going to do its job and keep it small. So if we have a fire, it's going to be smaller. It's not going to be these large fires of back in the 80s when the Civic Center burned, Benjamin's burned.
I was at the Benjamin's fire in 79 as well.
Yeah,
that was a great fire.
Yeah. So you're going to have those fires because of human error is going to continue to exist.
Yeah.
But probably not of that magnitude.
I was just doing the history column the other day, and the Coppers plant down the creosote plant, it was on fire for like 4 days. Because it was creosote. I mean, there was so much to burn there. It was just amazing that the teams had to be on the scene for so long.
Yeah, especially dealing with that because the fire gets in that creosote. You got heavy timber.
Yeah.
Look at the East Pocomoke's, that Eastern Shore Forest Products area.
Yeah.
I mean, you get that fire built in that mulch and wood chip, it'll burn forever because it's just covered, and it's hard for us to get into it. So you got to get some heavy equipment in there, move stuff out of the way so we can get our water hose streams and all on there. So
It's probably been 10, 15 years ago. There was a fire at the old Campbell's soup place that was like that. It was a storage thing.
Yeah,
and
recycling
Yeah,
company.
recycling was in there, and that
Yes.
caught fire. Yeah.
Yep, sure does.
Yeah. There was coverage in recent years about the fire services agreement where the city of Salisbury goes out into the county and provides services and was never really paid for it. That's been negotiated. But the point in all that was that I think people who live on the fringe of the city and out in the county never realized how lucky they were to be served by the Salisbury Fire Department. They had great fire service.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for years there was always this talk about the fire service agreement. When you look at the fire service district areas, especially around the city, the municipal area, because the city has a lot of chopped areas. So in between the city, you have county area also. So those people that lived in that area were receiving this huge benefit of a staffed organization, you know, EMS units staffed, readily available to respond to their calls. So, you know, the constant conversation about fire service agreement, equitable service, funding, pay for the service that was being provided. So former executive Culver and Mayor Day, they were able to come to some agreement. We actually signed that in 2017. So we have now a signed fire service agreement that provides funding back to the city for the services that we provide into that county portion of our fire district.
What do people not know about the fire department that you like to tell them that they need to know?
So we're always available. We're open 24 hours a day. COVID is bad right now.
Right.
So, you know, please wear a mask, do all the things that they're asking you to do for COVID. But at some point, when we get back to some normalcy, you know, one of the things that we love is people to come to the fire stations.
I was going to say, do you like people coming by? Because you have a little museum there at the headquarters.
Yeah, absolutely. We love having people come to the fire stations. Any opportunity that we get to interact with civilians, our community, we love it. So, you know, bring your kids by, we'll give them tours, we'll put them on fire trucks, let them climb around on it. Because, again, as a small child who loved the fire service, you know, that was always the fun part of the days when you got to see a fire truck and climb on it and all that stuff. And the community events, when we were talking about fire protection with fire marshal's office and all that, one of the other big things that we work on is just education, our public education program. Deputy Chief Jimmy Gladwell manages our public education. We do a phenomenal job with trying to get out in the public. If there's an event that we can be at, you know, we really like being there because we get to interact with the community. We get to talk about the fire service. We get to have kids. We give out helmets and all that stuff. So, you know, please come by the fire station, stop by anytime. So we always enjoy that.
Unfair question, but one of the things I miss the most is the old fireman's muster in the city park.
It is. You know, I participated in that many, many years. You start getting people hurt, and then the liability issues, what really hurt that program. There has been talk of trying to bring something back. The midnight alarm was always the one that people really, really loved.
It was so funny.
But, you know, riding on the back step of fire engines is frowned upon now.
Right.
Standards have changed. You know, you don't see
Right.
fire equipment built with steps that you can ride on anymore.
Right.
So, but
I hadn't realized that. That's true.
Yeah, because they've went away from them. You know, the standards change. Got to be seat belted to ride on equipment nowadays. So,
Chief John Tull, thanks for all you do. Thanks for all your guys do out there. We really appreciate it, and thanks for coming by here today.
no problem. I appreciate it. Thank you for this opportunity.
And joining us now is the newest member of the big staff at the Salisbury Fire Department, Shelby Gardner. How are you, Shelby?
I'm good. How are you?
Now, you're the recruitment and retention coordinator.
Yes.
And this is a new position, and we see you all over town trying to recruit volunteers.
Yes. We're always accepting volunteers at the Salisbury Fire Department. With COVID, you know, it's kind of put a halt to a lot of our community events. But sometimes you'll see Sparky and I out reading books or, you know, at Third Friday trying to recruit volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah, now Sparky is the fire dog.
Yes.
And he's a big fire dog.
He is. Yes. He's great.
Is he house trained?
Yes.
That's good.
thankfully. So I can bring him out in public. So.
And the kids love Sparky.
Yes, so I get a lot of compliments on our Thursday book readings. Sparky and I read every Thursday on Facebook Live at 10:30, and you know, people come up and say, "Oh, my kids love Sparky," and I'm like, "Oh, that is so great."
What's the hardest thing about recruiting people to be firefighters?
You know, I think people don't have the amount of time that they used to have to volunteer. People have to work jobs, especially now in the pandemic. They have to support their family and they have small children, and they really can't put as much hours into volunteering as they used to be able to.
And there's also so much training. It used to be you just show up, just to have hands on the site was all you needed, but now there's real training physical requirements.
Yes, so it is a very physically demanding job, and there is a lot of training that goes into it. To complete Firefighter 1, it's about a 4-month program. EMT is about 6 months. And then we also require hazmat operations class, and that takes about a month and a half. So it is very demanding time-wise. And, you know, when I first started out, becoming a volunteer and doing all my training, I was working 40 hours a week from 8 to 5, and then going to class from 7 to 10. So it has to be, you have to be passionate about it, and you have to love volunteering and love helping people, and I just don't think that people have the time.
Right.
So
Talk about how important it is to have the volunteers and the professionals working together, why that's needed.
it's definitely needed because when all of the crews are busy, sometimes there could be a fourth run ambulance call, and we need the volunteers to show up, and instead of other counties or coming in to help us, we can have our volunteers. It's saving the department money, it's saving the city money, so it's really important, and I think it creates a more bond between the career and the volunteers working together.
One of the things that's obvious to me from watching you on Facebook is that you really enjoy what you're doing.
I do. I absolutely love my job. Obviously there are some hardships that come with it, and some days are tougher than others, but I absolutely love my job. I love everything about the Salisbury Fire Department, and I'm really passionate about getting people in, and it's really exciting to see someone from when they first come to fill out their application to when they're finishing Fire 1, and they're so excited about, running with the crews and volunteering, and that kind of what makes my job worth it. So it's really exciting getting to kind of see even cadets, when they first start out, and then growing into becoming full active members, and so.
Yeah. I've always loved, as a reporter, I used to cover these all the time, the ceremonies that go on when people are promoted, they're inducted. Tell me about how great that feels.
It's very exciting, and I think it's really exciting for the member as well, because their family gets to come and see them and all they've accomplished. And, like I said, it's very physically and mentally demanding. So finishing Fire 1 and being able to get pinned into the fire department is a really awesome feeling. And, some of the career guys show up to support the volunteers, which is really awesome. And it's just kind of a sense of like a family. So it's very exciting.
Now, if I were to become a volunteer, is there a track for me to perhaps become a paid firefighter?
Yes, so, when you first start out, you'll fill out your application, you'll meet with the personnel board, we accept or deny you, and then you'll have to go for fingerprints and a medical physical. So then you'll go into your training, Fire 1, EMT class, and hazmat operations. And once you complete all of those classes and become, incorporate yourself into the fire department, whenever there's a hiring process, you can apply just like anyone else from any other department, and you'll go through a written test and then a physical agility test, and you'll have to also go through an interview process after you complete those, and that's it. So it's always exciting. I think a lot of our volunteers, we groom to be paid.
Right.
So that's also kind of part of my job too, is we have to recruit so many volunteers, because when we bring them in, we're grooming them to eventually be a career member of the Salisbury Fire Department.
So if I was a volunteer and I became a paid guy, how much money could I make as a paid firefighter?
So it starts in the upper 30s. It also depends, if you're just an EMTB or if you're a paramedic, depending on what kind of
My training and expertise will
training
help
and-
me to make more money.
Correct. And also if you're a full-time employee, you also receive benefits, which are very important, as you grow up, health insurance and dental, life insurance, retirement, all of that good stuff. So it's definitely beneficial.
And we see in the history of the fire department, the chief started at the bottom, and he's the chief now. And you see a lot of those guys, they started low or as volunteers, and they've moved up to running the department.
Yeah, so that's also really exciting. Like I said before, we kind of groom our volunteers, which in return is benefit for the city because, they start as volunteers and we kind of get them into the whole process.
What is your background? How did you end up in this?
So my dad is actually a career member for the Salisbury Fire Department.
Okay.
I actually went to college for journalism and documentary production.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah.
And got a starting position for marketing out of college and realized that I was 23 years old and could not do this for the rest of my life. So my dad said, hey, why don't you do a ride-along? We offer ride-alongs for anyone in the community that thinks that they would like to volunteer or, just kind of see what it's like to be a firefighter EMT. So I went on a ride-along with him and I was instantly hooked. I said, yeah, this is definitely something I would like to do.
Isn't it amazing? The power and just the involvement is just incredible.
Yeah, so it's crazy. And like I said before, it definitely has to be a passion. It's a very interesting job. We see a lot of things that, a lot of people don't. And yeah, so I just started doing my classes and getting into it. And then this job kind of came, and so I applied, and here we are.
It's been an awkward time socially with the COVID and everything. But I've seen you out there at the third Friday, had a nice table, and I can't wait for when things are really opened up again to see you're out there really able to do your job.
Yes, COVID has kind of put a lot of halt to my plans that I've had for community outreach and doing things within the community, and maybe throwing like an open house for the community to come see the fire department. So hopefully, in the coming year, we will see more of a community outreach, more of Sparky and I out and about, and just recruiting.
Okay, so what's your pitch? If I'm thinking about doing this, why should I become a volunteer or even a paid firefighter?
It is the best job in the entire world. Even if you're volunteering, the amount of joy and self-fulfillment that you get out of just helping people and helping the community and doing community outreach is amazing. I was at Walmart actually about 2 weeks ago, and a little boy came up to me and tapped me on the back, and he was like, "Do you remember me?" And I was like, "Oh, I taught you fire prevention." And he was like, "Yeah." And he was so excited, and it was an amazing feeling to realize that you actually made an impact on a child's life by teaching them fire prevention. So if you'd like to apply, you can fill out an application and bring it to Station 16, which is our headquarters, and
On Cypress Street?
on Cypress Street, yep, and we'll get you in.
So tell me about this Junior Fire Academy.
So firefighter EMT Rachel Wabels actually is the coordinator for our Junior Fire Academy, and it is a program where kids from about 3rd grade, hopefully to about 9th grade eventually, can come to the fire department. It's a 2-week program, and they are taught how to just basic fire stuff, basic fire prevention, and it's a great way for our firefighters to interact with the kids, teach them about fire, teach them about, this is kind of what we do on a daily, and it really grooms them to, if they would like to join the fire department when they get older, just a little bit about what they would be doing.
And I think enthusiasm is the biggest ingredient you need to be a firefighter.
Yes, enthusiasm and passion, and it's just a really awesome job. I can't, that's just how, there's no way to explain it. It's awesome.
So if I was a parent and I wanted to direct my kid toward the Junior Academy, what would I do?
So when the time comes, Rachel will send out an email to every school, kind of letting them know, hey, now's the time you can start signing up. That school will send it to the parents, and they will fill out like a Google sheet and sign their kid up.
Shelby Gardner, thanks for being here today. We are so supportive of what you're trying to do in terms of recruiting people for the fire department. Thanks for everything. And when people are out there and you see her, say hi, because it's a really cool thing that she's doing.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad I had the opportunity to come.
Earlier we had Chief John Tull on here today, and we were thrilled to have him here as well. Great service from Salisbury Fire Department, and we're just so happy they were both here today. I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One-on-One right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One-on-One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.